Imagine this. You're sipping a can of soda, feeling refreshed, until someone says, "You know that's full of high-fructose corn syrup, right?" Suddenly, you're questioning your life choices, your diet, and possibly your entire existence. High-fructose corn syrup, or HFCS, has become one of the most hated ingredients in America, blamed for everything from obesity to global warming. Okay, maybe not that far yet. But how did a humble corn syrup become public enemy number one? The answer might surprise you, and it all starts right here, on History of Food. Let's rewind to a simpler time, the 1960s. The Beatles were on the radio, bell-bottoms were in, and sugar was still just sugar. The U.S. relied heavily on cane sugar, most of it imported from tropical countries like Cuba. But then, politics and economics got in the way. After the Cuban Revolution, the U.S. cut ties with Cuba, one of its biggest sugar suppliers. At the same time, global sugar prices spiked due to trade restrictions and crop failures. America needed a cheaper, homegrown sweetener. And as luck, or fate would have it, scientists had just cooked up something new in the lab: high-fructose corn syrup. HFCS was developed in the late 1950s by Japanese scientists who figured out a way to convert glucose from cornstarch into fructose, the sweeter half of table sugar. When U.S. corn prices dropped in the 1970s thanks to government subsidies, it became the perfect substitute. It was cheap, stable, and sweet. The food industry said, "Sign us up." By the 1980s, HFCS had officially taken the throne. Beverage companies, especially soda giants like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, switched from cane sugar to high-fructose corn syrup almost overnight. Why? Simple economics. Cane sugar was pricey and imported. Corn syrup, meanwhile, came from good old American farms, heavily subsidized, cheap, and in endless supply. HFCS could also be stored longer, blended easily into drinks, and resist crystallization. In short, it was a manufacturer's dream. For decades, Americans drank and ate HFCS without a second thought. It was in sodas, breads, ketchup, salad dressings, and even healthy yogurts. If it was sweet, odds were it had HFCS. But like every good food story, it didn't stay sweet forever. In the early 2000s, something shifted. As obesity rates climbed and documentaries like Super Size Me took over pop culture, people began searching for a villain. And there it was, right on the nutrition label: high-fructose corn syrup. Nutritionists and journalists started pointing fingers, suggesting that HFCS was worse than regular sugar, that it somehow tricked the body into storing more fat or suppressing the feeling of fullness. Suddenly, HFCS became a buzzword for everything wrong with processed food. Soda became liquid candy. Snack companies were shamed. And if you wanted to look healthy, you slapped a made with real sugar label on your product and watched your sales soar. HFCS wasn't just an ingredient anymore. It was a symbol. Here's where things get complicated. From a chemistry standpoint, HFCS and table sugar, or sucrose, are almost identical. Both are made up of glucose and fructose, the two main building blocks of sweetness. The main difference? In HFCS, glucose and fructose float around freely, while in regular sugar they're chemically bonded. Once inside your body, that bond is quickly broken down anyway, meaning your system treats both the same. So technically, your body can't tell if your soda was sweetened with cane sugar or corn syrup. They have the same number of calories and affect your blood sugar similarly. But here's the catch. HFCS was cheap, so food companies used a lot more of it. That's where the real problem started. Not the ingredient itself, but how much of it we consumed. By the late 20th century, the average American was consuming more added sugar than ever before, sometimes over 60 pounds a year. That's like downing an entire bag of sugar every month. And much of that came from sugary drinks, the main carriers of HFCS. The rise of convenience foods, bigger portion sizes, and the marketing of low-fat products, which often used extra sugar to taste good, made things even worse. So when health experts began sounding the alarm on obesity and diabetes, HFCS became an easy target. the sugary scapegoat, and to be fair, it was everywhere. By the 2010, HFCS free became the new gluten-free. Major brands started reformulating products to use real sugar again, even though, chemically speaking, it made almost no difference. But hey, perception is everything. Pepsi launched Pepsi Throwback with cane sugar. Heinz Ketchup proudly announced, "Now made without high-fructose corn syrup." And smaller, trendier brands leaned hard into marketing phrases like all-natural sweeteners or no corn syrup added. It was less about health and more about image. Consumers wanted nostalgia, purity, and authenticity. HFCS was now the villain in the food story, and real sugar was the redemption arc. Here's a fun and slightly unsettling fact. If you live in the US, you are basically made of corn, literally. Studies that analyzed human hair found that most Americans have a distinct carbon isotope pattern that traces back to corn-based products, from the food we eat to the animals we feed. Corn is in almost everything, from sweeteners to livestock feed, biofuel, adhesives, and even batteries. HFCS was just one more way America turned its favorite crop into something profitable and eventually controversial. Here's the twist. The problem was never just HFCS. It was our entire relationship with sweetness. We didn't just swap sugar for corn syrup, we swapped moderation for indulgence. From the 1980s onward, sweet became the default flavor in almost everything. Yogurt, sweet. Bread, sweet. Tomato sauce, surprisingly sweet. HFCS was everywhere, not because it was evil, but because we loved it, and we demanded more. So, blaming HFCS alone is like blaming one villain in a movie when the whole cast is guilty. Interestingly, HFCS's reputation is slowly softening. As more research shows it's not uniquely harmful compared to other sugars, some people are realizing that the real issue isn't what kind of sugar we eat, it's how much. The food industry still uses it, but often quietly and in smaller amounts. Meanwhile, new sweeteners, like stevia, monk fruit, and allulose, are stepping into the spotlight. Each one promises to be the healthy alternative until, inevitably, someone decides they're evil too. Because, in the end, every generation needs a new food villain. So, was HFCS really the monster it's made out to be? Not exactly. It's not more toxic than regular sugar, it just makes it easier for us to overindulge. The real twist is this. We didn't invent HFCS because we were evil. We did it because we wanted cheap sweetness, and we got exactly what we asked for. So next time you pick up that soda can and check the label, remember, it's not just a battle between sugar and corn syrup. It's a mirror of our own sweet obsession. And that might be the real villain of the story. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution.